Hey guys, so I got a request for Blink Stalkers, and I think everyone can understand how annoying Blink Stalkers are. And fortunately, Blizzard is on our side and nerfed Mothership Vision. They didn't do Blink Stalker cooldown yet. I think that's a bit too much, but they also made Widow Mines a lot stronger, so I approve Blizzard. They're good changes. So that's why pro gamers have, for the most part, figured out two-base Blink Stalker, all-ins, and macro follow-ups, so that is shifting quickly out of the metagame. But for those of you who don't understand what to do against them, this is a video for that, and how to deal with one-base Blink plays as well, because we don't see them in pro games ever, so why not? I mean, they seem pretty strong on ladder, so I guess I'll show you today that it's not really effective, and two-base Blink Stalker is really the only way to go if you are going to open up Blink Stalkers. So let's jump into the game here. And this is a TVP on Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain is the worst map for, Heavy Rain is the worst map for Terran players because Blink Stalkers have just a million places to blink up into. So if you can defend Blink Stalkers, like a one-base Blink Stalker all-in on this map, on every other map, it's going to be a lot easier for you. So I'm only going to be covering how to defend versus Blink Stalkers using the Reaper expand into a 3-racks opener. It's the build that I've been going over a lot lately. I might in the future do the factory opening, but I currently don't use that at all in my ladder play, so I'm not very familiar with it, and I don't feel like researching a bunch of factory builds if I'm not even going to use it. So, with that in mind, Reaper expand, you always want to scout with your 15th SCV, or the one that finishes the barracks, so that you can get to the Protoss's base in time to see if there's going to be a 10 gate or if there's going to be a proxy second pylon for oracles. And I covered both 10 gate and very fast proxy oracles in previous VODs. So right off the bat, see, he's not mining all of his gas. There's one pylon, there's two pylons. Right now my SCV is just looking around for pylons, and right now I'm going to build my command center on the low ground because I did not see a fast zealot. He did make a zealot, but he's not rushing it over, and he also has 2 gas as well. So it's not going to be the mothership core, zealot, stalker, pressure into expand build. It's most likely going to be a tech build. So what I'm looking for here is all 3 pylons. If my SCV does not see a 3rd pylon, then I know that there's going to be a proxied building. And I see 1 pylon, I see 2 pylons, and I see 3 pylons. And he did have them spread out as well. So that's something that a better Protoss player will do. And it's also very useful because if you do try to scan or use your Reaper, the Protoss player can potentially zone out part of their base, so that even though your Reaper might see a couple pylons, they won't see the last pylon with the very important tech structures. So I know right now he has 2 gas and he has 3 pylons, and I'm going to keep my SCV here to see if he's going to expand. He would expand right about now at the 4-minute 40 to 4-minute 45 mark. He doesn't want to delay it too much if he's going to be just doing a mothership core expand off of 2 gases, but he's not going to be doing that this game. I guess I'm just going over different possibilities of why to leave the SCV there. And also, if he takes an expansion after 5 minutes and you don't really see any other tech and he has 2 gases, it's going to be a DT rush, so you have to prepare for that. And so that's why it's good to leave your SCV here. Protoss players don't generally check that. I mean, they're more concerned with the Reaper. So if you can use both the Reaper and the SCV to scout, it's very, very important to scout the Protoss player's base. So let's see. Not great losing my SCV there. So things aren't off to a great start. My Reaper is going in. It's just looking around, and I see no third base, and it's past the 5-minute 30 mark. I see a stalker. I see the Twilight Council. So, he would have thrown down his Nexus already if he was going for a fast expand into DTs, and this Twilight Council, that's why, like, that's just one possibility of what the Twilight Council could be, other than Blink, but I can just recheck that very easily. It's very important not to lose your Reaper. If you do, you have to scan at 6 minutes 30 seconds to see what he's doing, because Blink and DT are both two completely different reactions. So thankfully I finished my orbital command, and since he doesn't have a base, I scouted that with my SCV. There is no point in leaving this base here. I'm going to evacuate it to the high ground. Against one base Blink plays, it is a requirement to evacuate your base to the high ground, because you just don't have enough units to defend here, here, and here, and you also don't have enough of an economy to build bunkers to defend here, another bunker to defend here, and another bunker to defend here. So I haven't lost too much yet. I've lost a couple workers, and he uses a time warp early on. You do not want to fight in a time warp ever, because you can't kite your units. I'm just saying that now. Don't fight in a time warp. There's almost no good reason to ever fight in time warp. So I'm evacuating my base. He used a time warp now, which means he's not going to have 2 time warps when his Blink attack comes, which is nice. Alright, I dropped the scans. So basically I have one bunker here, just for now, because this is the best place to build a bunker, for obvious reasons. Now, I still have my SCV over here, and just the fact that he doesn't have an expansion going up here means that it has to be Blink Stalkers, because why would you go for a DT expand without actually expanding? So at this point, I can safely assume that it's going to be Blink Stalkers. Do I have my Reaper here? Oh, my Reaper is still alive. And since my Reaper is still alive, I could have potentially just looked into his base and maybe like jump up here and see the additional gateways going down. And this is a very all-in attack. He has 4 gateways going down, so he has no plans of expanding. Any possible Blink expansion would be off of 3 gates, but with 3 gates, you really have to catch your opponent off guard, and this video is hopefully going to help you guys understand how to ID the Blink Stalker build and prepare your defenses so you don't get caught off guard. And if you don't take any economic damage or lose too many units from it, and he tries to expand off of 3 gates with Blink, you're just going to crush him with the 2 medvacs. So that's why that build is no longer used, because he doesn't have enough money to expand and to invest in a big Blink Stalker army. So my SCV is still alive, which is awesome, and I'm going to scout now. I see a Chrono Boost, so now I know it's 100% for sure it's a Blink Stalker all in. And I see 1, 2, do I see a 3rd gateway? Nope. Or, I mean a 4th gateway, nope, but 3 gateways is enough to know that it's going to be a Blink Stalker build. So for the most part, my gameplay is going to be a set number of actions for the next couple minutes. It's already been decided and put in stone. So let's take a look at my defense right here. I have 1 bunker over here and another bunker over here. So if he tries to blink up here, the bunker is going to be just in range to tickle the stalkers, and at the same time, the bunker isn't too far up so that he can blink from the low ground and just snipe it off, or he can just snipe it off from the low ground. And that's just very bad if that happens. And the bunker is also placed in a good enough spot so that he can't just move around. If the Protoss player does choose to blink into the main base, you just pull SCVs and you can surround his Blink Stalkers, and he's going to lose all of it and the game. If he loses his army like that, then the game is over. Even if you lose a lot of SCVs, he has lost his entire army. So, this is what also, I want to rush out my factory. I built that, let's see when I built that. But it's very important to get your factory out as soon as possible for both Widow Mines and Starport Tech. But I also do get an engineering bay first off, because I don't 100% know it's Blink Stalkers yet. he could be doing a Blink Stalker build, but then adding a DT Shrine really quickly. Like, you research Blink, then you get a DT Shrine, and you don't really make that many Stalkers. So that's why I'm getting an Engineering Bay quickly like that. And then I think I'm also going to save up one scan. It's just very important to have at least one scan and have a turret coming down soon, so you don't get caught off with DTs. And unfortunately I don't have a replay with that, but DTs are also the same boat with 3-gate blink expands into 3-gate blink expands, because DTs suck additional resources out of the Blink Stalker army and makes the Blink Stalkers less of a threat than they actually are versus just pure Blink Stalker all-ins. And when you have 3 barracks producing units at a constant rate, then your army's going to be too big. And the only way he would win is if he builds a DT and gets it into your main and you have no scanner detection for it. So, there's my turret. And I also, I built an engineering bay and then a factory. It's very important to try not to delay your factory as much as possible. My factory started at 7 minutes and 55 seconds, so that is still slightly delayed, but I did need to invest in 2 bunkers, and I also built the engineering bay beforehand, and I'm only on 1 base economy. So minerals aren't really... Okay, never mind about that. I was going to say minerals aren't only that much of an issue, but I have a lot of minerals. So right now he's trying to attack this bunker. I get really, I think, fortunate because I'm able to pull my SCVs fast enough. If you lose this bunker, then you pretty much lose the game, because he can just blink back up, and if you don't have a bunker, then the Blink Stalkers are just gonna kill all your units and kite them back indefinitely. But the bunker forces the Blink Stalkers to target it down rather than your units. And it's also really important to get the mothership core. You want to target that down as much as possible. The weaker it is, the more chance of it dies, and if it dies, there's no vision to jump on the high ground, and you've bought yourself a huge opportunity in the game. So I have SCVs pulled. I think it's important to leave, and I think the magic number for this is 4 SCVs at least one of the bunkers, because that's how many SCVs it takes to keep the bunker alive long enough for your army to go from maybe this spot to this spot. And as we can see here, I didn't lose any units. I lost 1 SCV. And I'm keeping my army positioned here. I don't want to fill this bunker up immediately. If he does blink over here, then I will just fill up the bunker with units. But other than that, it's better to keep it excuse me, in your standing army, so that you have more mobility for where he does blink. And so he's going to try to go for... Okay, so he's going to blink up here. Not really the best spot because he blinks right on top of my army, and he's also in range of the bunker. So let's see how this battle goes. He has 14 stalkers, 27 probes. I have 5 marauders, 15 marines, and 1 reaper. I mean, see, and I'm also pulling SCVs just to be safe, just in case he tries to like blink over here, or he does some more blink micro off of this area, which he should. The SCVs are fantastic at tanking versus blink stalkers, but you don't want to tank them too much because then you'll lose too much damage. So, wow, he lost I think 9 stalkers. Didn't he have like, I think he had like 15-ish, and he lost 6 stalkers. And I lost 4 marines, 1 marauder, maybe an SCV or 2. Nope, not even an SCV. So as a result of him blinking on top of where my army was, he basically lost his entire army trying to get some damage done. And now I'm in a really, really great position. And also, since I'm only on 1 base economy right now, I decide to build widow mines. I'm going to build one here, and then I'm going to build one over here, and then just build 1 medevac at a time, because you don't really have the resources for 2 medevac production and constant unit production. It's very expensive on 1 base. You can kind of barely afford it, but getting widow mines out I think is just a better counter because it helps you zone out the Protoss army. And medevac energy does run out, but widow mines they're just fantastic versus blink stalkers, especially on the ground like that. because it's not close enough for you to like blink up and then blink back down and not lose a stalker. Like, you're gonna lose at least one stalker if you try to blink into this position. So he tries to blink here, but since he lost the majority of his stalkers in the previous engagement, this is not, I don't even need to pull SCVs. My army is big enough because he lost about more than half of his army and I lost maybe like a sixth of mine, not even a quarter. So he's just staying there waiting for his blink to cool down, and he's gonna intelligently attack me and then blink micro off of this ledge because he has a position to, since the bunker is gone. And if this were even and he had the about like 9 more blink stalkers that he didn't lose trying to blink up here, then I would be in very big trouble, because since the bunker went down, he can back up to this ledge and blink micro backwards. But because of the fact that I did take that favorable engagement, he is too far behind to really do anything with his army anymore. And that's why I'm able to repel it so easily. And now I have 2 Widow Mines. I can put the second Widow Mine here. I have a Medvac. I have 2 command centers. He doesn't even have an expansion, and I scan just to make sure. And he lost his mothership core, so he can no longer attack me. So this game is basically over now. He's gonna try to do one last ditch effort at attacking. That did not work out. And almost. Like, at this point, do I have combat shields? Combat shields is almost done. I do have concussive shells and stim, though. Those are definitely higher priority upgrades than combat shields. But at this point, I can attack into his army, and he doesn't have a big enough army to withstand mine. And see, the Widow Mine. The Widow Mine's just fantastic unit, and you can reposition them to zone out different areas as well. And so his army's basically dead now. And there's the good game. Let me see. I'm just gonna check to see if I missed any main points. So to go over a recap, this is versus a 1-base Blink Stalker all-in. I went over how to scout it, and that a helpful thing. It's not guaranteed, but it's very useful because not a lot of Protosses check this area. But if you leave an SCV outside of the natural and then you check in for the expansion, that really narrows down your options, because you get to see when the Nexus timing is, if there is a Nexus timing at all. And even if your Reaper dies, you have a potential ability to scout up the ramp, like I did with my SCV. So I think that covers the scouting portion of it. And if your Reaper dies, if your SCV dies, definitely throw down a scan. You need to throw down a scan. It's very, very important. And if you obviously aren't going to be able to see his entire base, but since I did scout for 3 pylons and I did see the location, that means his buildings are going to be here, here, or here. So try to get at least 2 pylons in range. So like if I was to scan over here and see 2 pylons worth of stuff, I would see his tech. Or if I scanned here, then I would see all of his gateways. And it's within the 2 pylon range. Let's see, so and the important thing is here is to keep your units alive. Try not to lose too many units. Stay in a defensive posture over here. And keep your units, try to keep them as balled up together as possible. And if you lose a bunker, I barely did not lose a bunker, but if you lose a bunker, that's pretty much a good game. So either have 4 SCVs at 1 bunker and have your army at the other side, so that you're like, as we saw earlier in this video, him trying to blink up and it was right into my army. So we know that it's not possible to take a head-on engagement versus a bio army off of 3 barracks right here. So either keep SCVs on 1 bunker and then the army at another place until your Widow Mines are out, or just, yeah, that's pretty much the best way, because if I had lost that bunker, I would have lost the game. And then the next thing I did was, Widow Mines are very effective at this because he doesn't have enough of an economy to afford a robotics facility. So these mines are going to help zone out potential blink areas. And like he can't even blink over here because I pulled my SCVs and there's a Widow Mine there. Alright, so I think this pretty much wraps up this game. One base blink stalker all in. So the next game I want to show you guys is I have a couple more replays. There's gonna be a this is another one base blink stalker all in, and I'm not gonna go through the entire game. I just want to point out a little scouting trick. And then the next two games are from I Am Cologne, where Pol very handily beats two really good players, Mana and Classic, when they both do blink stalker builds. And I'll show you what his reaction is to scouting a 2-base blink stalker build. So, gonna go through this game really quickly. Everything, like, this is Polar Night. It's a much easier map. You can kind of blink up there, but if there's a bunker there, not really. And then you just need another bunker over here, because he can blink. You can actually blink up from here, but if you have a bunker over here, then it covers both this area and that area. So there's not really many places to blink up in this map. So if you, like I said, if you can hold it on heavy rain, all the other maps are a bunch easier. Okay, so you might be wondering, why am I scouting for a proxy here? Well, I got extremely lucky here, and maybe it's just a good time to scout, but if we take a look at my SCV scout, earlier on, I already saw his probe, and I killed it with an SCV. Yep, there it is. So it forced him to send out another probe, and I am able to see it with this SCV, which is extremely fortunate. So I know that he has a probe out on the map, and most likely it's going to be a proxy. And I see 2 pylons. Always want to check the pylon count, and I see 2 gases. So it's definitely going to be a proxy of some sort. I don't even bother checking over here because there's no other reason why that probe should be out on the map. So I immediately start to check possible proxy locations, and I end up finding it. And doing this just single-handedly shuts down his blink build and makes it a lot more ineffective. I mean, he's still going to start the Twilight Council, but he's already lost a pylon. And it might not be a big deal, but it does set him back a little bit. And the fact that he couldn't hide he was probably going to hide a Twilight Council over there as well. But let's just assume for a second that he does hide the Twilight Council, so it would be a proxy blink stalker. All my Reaper has to do is suicide itself into the main base and check how many pylons there are. And if there's still only 2 pylons out here, you know that there's a 3rd pylon proxied on the map. So let's assume for a second that I don't know it's blink play, and that he does have a Twilight Council building over there instead of over here. So I need to recharge up with my Reaper. I'm going to first check his expansion. He does not have an expansion, and it's 5 minutes and 43 seconds into the game. By this time, by about 5:30 is when a Protoss will take a fast expand when he goes DT rush. So if you see like an expansion at this time, just add on an engineering base, save up 1 scan, and add a turret ASAP, and you'll be fine. And you can like expand to the low ground and everything. So I don't see anything there, so I'm going to sacrifice my Reaper in, and let's just say I don't see the Twilight Council and I just see 3 gateways, okay? So the mothership's going to be out, and he has 2 stalkers. So the delayed mothership core means that he's investing his tech heavily into something else. That he didn't want to build a mothership core for 100 gas. There's 100 gas that was invested somewhere else before he made the mothership core. And he has 2 stalkers over here. Now, if you see 2 stalkers, 2 gas, and no expansion, then it's 100% blink stalker. You don't even need to scout the Twilight Council, you just know it's going to be blink stalker. The other possibilities could be an Immortal Sentry all-in with a proxy Robo Bay, but he would have at least 1 Sentry over here, and he would you don't make stalkers when you're doing an Immortal Sentry all-in, okay? So you make stalkers when you're either doing a DT rush, because stalkers are cheaper on gas, or if you're going to do a blink play. And we know he's not going to be doing a DT rush because he didn't have his expansion up, so we can safely assume that it's going to be a blink play. So that's just what I wanted to go over in case you see he proxies a Twilight Council, and you don't get a chance to see it. If you see the 2 stalkers, well, like first to recap this game, if you only see 2 pylons, you know that there's going to be a 3rd pylon proxied. And if you see 3 gateways, a delayed mothership core, and a stalker, then, or 2 stalkers, not just 1, but 2 stalkers, then you know that 100% that it's going to be a blink play. So I prepare for it, and this is only off of 3 gateways. He didn't lose the pylon, so he didn't really lose much. Now he blinks up, but once again he's fighting in front of my entire army, which is not good. But let me just fast rewind it here. So normally it's not good if he's gonna blink up into my main and try to fight my entire army. But the fact that there is a time warp, this is why time warp is so good. Since there's a time warp there, it zones out my army, so I'm forced to fight out of it. Because if I try to fight inside that and he just blinks back, I'm gonna lose a lot of my army. So I have to back up. And even though he's gonna have a blink, I pull some SCVs. I pull the rest of my Marines in the bunker because I know his entire army is here, and I kind of like try to fight away from the time warp. And he's forced to blink out because the time warp's gonna disappear soon. So that's basically why you shouldn't fight in a time warp, because if you do, then he's just going to be able to blink micro back, and I'm just going to lose all my Marines for free, and then Marauders can just get one shot by this. And he tries to kill the bunker. It's very, very important to keep these bunkers alive. You need to have, I can't stress this enough, you need to have a very fast reaction time to keep the bunker alive. You don't have to keep it alive the whole time, you just have to keep it alive long enough, and 3 to 4 SCVs in place with auto repair on will keep it alive long enough for your army to move and start to fight the stalkers and shoo them away from your base. So now at this point I don't even need a bunker because he only has 3 gateways. If he had a 4th one, he would have had some more stalkers, but my Widowmine is out right now, so I don't need a bunker here. I probably should have built a bunker, but I felt that I was safe enough so that I didn't need a second bunker. And my Widowmine came out at a good time, so that I zoned that out. And now I have Stim. I'm just chasing his units away because this area is covered. He can't just run away and then blink up into here because of the Widowmine. And that's why I stimmed out to just like check his army. He still has a relatively large army, but then he did lose his mothership core because of the Widowmines. And I put my second Widowmine there because I know that's the only other way he can attack if my army's over here. And since he loses his mothership core, the game is over because he can no longer apply pressure. So, the next games that I want to show you guys are these 2 games. Which should I show first? I'll just do this one. It's not a 2-base blink stalker all-in like I labeled it. It's actually a macro 2-base blink stalker. So basically, it assumes that the Terran player is going to scout your blink stalker all-in, but then mana throws down 2 more forges behind it, so he has no intention of being aggressive at all. And instead is going to make a huge gateway army and get 3/3 as fast as possible, and then research charge as soon as blink is done. So, Polt doing Reaper expand into 3 racks. He's going to scout with that SCV. He sees the probe going out. He sees 1 gas. He sees 1 pylon. He sees 2 pylons. So he knows that it's not going to be. It's just going to be a fast expand, and he checks that on the way out. So it's a mothership core fast expand. The build has been ID'd. So the next thing is to scout with the Reaper, and you can also build your CC on the low ground, obviously, against a fast expand. So the Reaper comes out. It's going to do a little bit of scouting here. Sees a stalker. Sees a second gas taken. Everything looks pretty normal, so he has no idea if it's blink stalkers or not yet. He saw the mothership core out of the corner of the map with the Reaper, so he has his units positioned very well to deal with the Mothership Core. Mothership Core just wants to scout and see if he's doing like a factory build or if he's doing a 3-Rex build. But I don't think he got... Yeah, he didn't get a chance to see exactly what was going on. So, Reaper goes back in. Does it scout? It didn't scout yet. Ooh, he barely doesn't lose it. If he lost it, that would have been very bad. But he keeps it alive, which is good. So, oh my gosh. And on top of this, Mana is getting a robotics facility. So, Widow Mine drops aren't going to be very useful against it. So let's just take a look at Mana's build right now. He is going Blink, but it is by no means all in. There are no additional gateways. He's getting another tech structure, and he's getting his 2nd and 3rd gas. And he... Okay, so there's the gateways. It's not very big. It's just 2 gateways. So, what Pult does is... So he sees the 3rd gas. He knows that it's not going to be an aggressive build. So, doing a small Marine Marauder poke with your first Marauder immediately is very important. It can very well... It narrows down the possibilities that the Protoss player can do. And Pult already has his units positioned in case an Oracle comes. Remember, you need 6 Marines to deal with an Oracle. And this area is a little bit undefended, but it's 5 Marines and he has 6 more over there. So he's pretty fine. It's pretty safe to send this out. And even against an Oracle, the Oracle would have a hard time doing much damage. So it's very safe, and it's also a very good way to scout. He's going to move in with both his Marine Marauder Force and his Reaper. So let's see what happens. Basically, if you force a photon overcharge, your job is well done. And then he ends up going up the ramp because Mana is playing extremely greedy. He has double forge and a robotics facility, and he's getting Blink. And I believe the probe, or the... In fact, the Reaper doesn't even scout. Yeah, the Reaper's dead right now, and it didn't even scout the Twilight Council. But this force gets in, and I think this is what lets him see it. Doing damage to the Mothership Core like that is great. It's always nice to take down the permanent HP. Mothership Core does have more HP than shields. Okay, there we go. So, Pult sees that it's going to be a Blink build. He has ID'd what Mana is doing, or at least half of what Mana is doing. Mana is actually playing extremely greedy behind this, so he's faking aggression with the Blink Stalkers. So what Pult does next is he's going to send another bio contingency out. It's the majority of his units, actually. And he's going to send them out because he did see that Mana does have a 3rd gas as well. So he's 99% not going to be investing a lot into Blink Stalkers, and he only saw those gateways, and he has a robotics facility, so he might not even know that Mana is going Blink at this point. But he's still going to send this force anyways. Force the photon overcharge. He sees Mana has no units because he's playing extremely greedy, and he ends up winning the game here. Okay, so I guess that wasn't the best replay to show you guys. I should have shown you the other one first. This is basically the opposite of what a 2-base Blink Stalker build is, because he got his Blink, and then he got a Robo-Bay, and 2 Forges, and he's only on 3 gateways right now. So he was playing extremely greedy, and that was why Pult's counterattack was able to do so much damage and end the game right here, because Mana only had 2 Sentries and a Stalker. Alright, so that game was kind of meh. I should have shown that last. That's the least aggressive version of Blink Stalkers. But I think Classic here does a better version of it. Plus he's Korean, so bonus points for that, right? Alright, so let's go back to Pult's view, see how he scouts this, and what he does after he scouts what is happening. Alright, everything looks pretty normal. It's going to be a Reaper expand into a fast command center into 3 Raxes. So he sees 2 pylons, he sees no gas, he sees the expansion, it's a Mothership Core expand. He sees the 3rd pylon too, which is very important. He knows it's not going to be a proxy thing. So he knows where all the pylons are, he knows the points that his Reaper needs to scout the areas of the base to see any possible tech structures. There's nothing there at that pylon. So he's probably going to check in over here or over here. And if we just look at home, Polt's doing 3 Raxes. His Marines rally to a safe spot, so he doesn't need to build a bunker immediately. It's very, very safe. And he makes another Marine, I believe. Yep, he makes another Marine just in case it's an Oracle play, because a Marauder... He makes a Marauder after he makes a Marine, but he does make a Marine first and then a Marauder almost all the time, unless he scouts a robotics facility immediately, and which rules out the threat of an Oracle. So, let's take a look. He still hasn't scouted anything. He sees there's like no probes here though. That's kind of odd. He only saw 1 probe there, so he's gonna... Does he make it? Does he make it? Okay, so he sees Blink being chrono boosted out, and he sees at least 1 gateway. So he doesn't know if it's gonna be an all-in build. He just knows that Blink is on the way. Let's see what. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely gonna be a very aggressive Blink build. As we can see, Classic adding on more gateways than Mana did. But Polt has only seen Blink and at least one more gateway going down. But he did see the Chrono Boost on the Blink, so he knows that it's going to be Blink Stalkers. So he sends his entire army out. Yeah, it is his entire army. It's basically when the first Marauder pops out, because he did make a round of pure Marines before he makes that Marauder. So he's gonna send the force here, and since he knows that Classic is doing a Blink kind of play, that Blink is not gonna be ready until about 8 minutes into the game off of 2 bases. That's when Blink finishes when you fast expand like this. So Polt is gonna very intelligently poke up and force a photon overcharge, expend the mothership core energy so that that's 1 less time warp available. And then what he's gonna do now is he's gonna leave 1 Marine there to spot the units coming by, and he's gonna leave the rest of his units outside of watchtower range. So now he sees a probe coming and 7 stalkers. It looks kind of dangerous, and notice he... Okay, so he's starting his bunkers. Actually, he's just finished his bunkers. That's kind of fast. I would start my bunkers when I started to see this, because I know that this counterattack is gonna draw his attention away for at least another 30 seconds. So he knows that even the mothership core has been pooled. It's gonna be a very committed attack. It's not an all-in by any means, because he's researching armor. He's gonna transition into Charge Law Templar, but it is enough to be aggressive and to force at least 3 bunkers out. And we can see here, Polt is... He's making a lot of bunkers here. I personally think he should make a bunker there, but... Oh well, it's Polt. Gotta trust what he's doing is in good faith. And so he's waiting until 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Long enough, basically long enough so that all these units are on the other side of the map, including the mothership core, so there's going to be no photon overcharge. And all of his units are going to be warped in over here. That's why Polt waits until about 8 minutes and 30 seconds and not just immediate. He basically waits like 10 to 20 seconds after he sees the units pass. So now he's going to go in. And this is just going to... This little counterattack does so much damage, it's basically going to win the game for him over here. He's already killed 10 probes. Classic knows he has to attack in really fast, and if he did blink up over here, I think it would have been a lot better than over here. But let's see what damage he gets done. He doesn't even kill the refinery. He doesn't even kill an SCV. So he's literally done no damage. Now, of course, this was not an all-in by any means from Classic. He was transitioning out of it with his armor and his additional gases being mined. But the fact that Polt did this counterattack at about 8 minutes and 30 seconds, well, I'll just say 8:15 to 8:30, and he was able to do so much damage. Classic is so far behind that he's not going to be able to win this game. And it would have still done the same damage if it was, let's say, like a 6 gate blink stalker all-in. The main reason why this worked is because Classic's entire army was caught out of position, and that Polt did force a photon overcharge at about 7 minutes, yeah, I believe it was like 7:15 from the mothership core, so that even if Classic left the mothership core at home to defend, then when Polt comes in with his counterattack, one photon overcharge goes up here, and he's not going to have a second one available, and Polt's just going to be able to scoop by the natural photon overcharge with this contingency of units. And as we can see here, Polt is basically safe. All he has to do is defend this against this army, which cannot even be replenished by 4 gates worth of units, because Classic is mining on sub 2 base economy. And it's basically an easy win from here, because there's nothing that Classic can really do. He has to do damage, but Polt's army is just bigger than Classic's. Even though Polt lost this entire little force, it bought him enough time to produce enough units, and it got his medevacs out, so that he was able to outpower Classic. Because Classic's economy was being wrecked over here, Polt was still constantly producing units, so Polt essentially has the defender's advantage. Now Classic's gonna blink up here, see if he can do any damage. He gets the reactor. Now he's kind of stuck. Polt's fighting in the time warp. This is how far ahead he is. He has, Jesus, 5 medevacs already. And Classic just isn't able to win this. And this isn't his entire army. He does not have an economy behind this. Or he does have an economy now, but he doesn't have anything else behind this. And Polt is able to, after Classic's army dies, move out and safely secure victory. Alright, so what we saw here was first 1 base blink stalker all-ins and how to defend against them and scout them, and 2 base blink stalker all-ins and how to stop them as well with the Reaper expand into 3 racks opening. You have enough units to do a counter attack at about 7 minutes 15 seconds, and then Polt waits. He uses a Marine as a spotter at the watchtower. If it's on a map like Heavy Rain, still leave a Marine out as a spotter and keep your Marauder and Marine force just slightly out of vision, like my hand. Like the Marines over here, and then the Marines and Marauders are over here, so the Protoss can't see them. And then at about 8:15 to 8:30 is when Polt goes in for a counterattack, because he knows that Classic is going to be on the other, or the Protoss is going to be on the other side of the map with all of his units, and warping in units as well, and do terrible, terrible damage and win the game. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't have any replays with 2 base blink stalker all-ins per se, but like off of 6 gates and just extremely fast, but doing the same counterattack will stop those blink stalker all-ins very easily, because the Protoss is going to be cutting probes to get out 6 gateways, and if you do any economic damage, he's not going to be able to use his 6 gateways, so it's not even going to be as scary as it was supposed to be. So thanks for watching, I guess, and that just about wraps up this episode against how to deal against blink stalker play, which is quickly falling out of the metagame, and I hope I gave some good reasons why and some good reactions that you guys can use on ladder, so that you won't have to dream of blink stalkers eating you alive anymore and having nightmares about that. Alright.